To determine how far the world has come in fulfilling the long-term objectives of the Paris Agreement, nations ought to conduct a global stocktake in 2023, and then every 5 years after that. The stocktake will analyze every aspect of the agreement using the most comprehensive research that is currently available. Among the thematic concerns that will be tackled are equity, financial flows, methods of implementation and assistance, mitigation, and adaptation. In the implementation guidelines, the process for organizing and conducting the global stocktake is more clearly outlined. Without concentrating primarily on any one party, the global stocktake shall consider information about the goals of the agreement as a whole. This document will include reports from the Enhanced Transparency Framework, as well as data from other sources. Nations can also contribute information on loss and damage, as well as related reaction measures, as was indicated before. Input for the stocktake will come from a range of sources, including countries as well as stakeholder groups, organizations, and other sources. The parties agree that the process will be developed and refined over time through a facilitated technical dialogue, several high-level events, and other techniques. In order to facilitate the implementation of the Paris Agreement and adherence to its provisions, countries ought to organize a committee. In circumstances where a country has not provided the required reports on its actions, or transmitted or maintained its NDC, the committee, which is not punitive, would start a so-called consideration. The problem with low capabilities in impoverished countries goes beyond finance and technology. There is a critical need to increase the ability of least developed and other nations to execute the Paris Agreement in its entirety. The agreement includes funding for capacity building from a wide range of funds and institutions. The committee will hold fruitful discussions with the parties and try to improve compliance by offering advice and encouragement. 12 regular members and 12 alternative members, each with a 3-year tenure, will make up the group. In C.T.O, steps were taken to increase institutional backing for capacity building. It began an evaluation of the Paris Committee on capacity building and encouraged parties and observers to give their opinions. Increasing trust through openness as a result, the Paris Agreement creates an enhanced transparency framework intended to foster confidence that every nation is making their fair share of the global effort. By adopting a comprehensive set of processes and standards that make it operative, the C.T.O conference expanded this framework that is applicable to all countries. The reporting data that must be submitted, the technical expert assessment, the transitional arrangements, and a facilitative multilateral consideration of progress, are all described in the guidelines. In order to assist developing countries with the creation of their initial and subsequent biannual transparency reports, the conference requested assistance from the Global Environment Facility. The enhanced transparency framework will make it possible to track the progress made by each country by providing explicit instructions on the reporting, evaluation, and consideration processes for the information to be supplied. These reports will also be made available to the public. The IPCC's guidelines, which include the most latest techniques, will be used to monitor progress. This will enable comparisons between a nation's deeds, the goals and plans outlined in its NDC. The parties will now develop common reporting tables for national GHG inventories, common tabular format tables for tracking progress towards NDCs and climate finance. Outlines of the biennial transparency reports, and other crucial elements to guarantee that this exercise is as robust and accurate as possible. transfer, and production of technology. To many nations desire more access to green technologies in order to lower emissions and increase resilience. Climate change must be slowed down, stopped, and finally reversed. This requires the use of clean energy and other environmentally beneficial technology. Enhancing action on technology development and transfer will be promoted and facilitated through the technology mechanism created under the Climate Change Convention. This is crucial to assisting nations in addressing the seismic shifts towards climate resilience and the development of low GHG emissions, as envisioned in the Paris Agreement. In order to help with the implementation of the Paris Agreement, the technology mechanism will also get broad guidance from the technology framework established by the Paris Agreement. With the active involvement of pertinent parties and improved collaboration between the public and commercial sectors, the framework has 5 key areas, including innovation, implementation, enabling environments, and support. The implementation guidelines also lay out a procedure for evaluating the advancement and transfer of technology. The scope and modalities for the periodic assessment was agreed to assess the effectiveness and adequacy of the support provided to the technology mechanism as it serves the Paris Agreement. It should also inform the global stocktake. The first assessment was initiated in late 2021. The Paris Agreement acknowledges that rich nations should continue to take the initiative in raising money to support developing nations' efforts to combat climate change. The C.T.O climate package offers some crucial information on future climate finance. The acquisition of climate financing has been shown. Developed governments have pledged to raise $100 billion yearly by 2020 and through 2025 for both mitigation and adaptation efforts in developing countries. At COP24, a select group of developed countries committed to achieving this objective. Many developing countries require support in order to participate in the global fight against climate change. In order to promote international confidence, a greater effort must be made to reach the $100 billion target. C.T.O stressed the significance of the Global Environment Facility, as well as the urgency of prompt promises to replenish the Green Climate Fund in 2019. This will be extremely beneficial for the capacity building initiative for transparency. In conclusion, additional concepts will be hosted by Consumer Trading Organization Limited.